Friedrich Nietzsche challenged everything. He was a philosopher who dared to dismantle the very foundations of Western thought. Born in 1844, Nietzsche's life was a tapestry woven with brilliance and suffering. Nietzsche's philosophy was a radical departure from the norm. He rejected the comforting illusions of religion and traditional morality. His most famous proclamation, "God is dead," remains shocking even today. He saw this as both a crisis and an opportunity. Nietzsche's work was a call to arms, an invitation to question everything. Friedrich Wilhelm Nietzsche entered the world on October 15, 1844, in Aachen, Prussia. His father, Karl Ludwig Nietzsche, was a Lutheran pastor. Nietzsche excelled in his studies, displaying a remarkable aptitude for languages and literature. Nietzsche's time at Schulpforta was not without its challenges. He found solace in his studies, spending countless hours in the library. In 1864, Nietzsche graduated from Schulpforta and enrolled at the University of Bonn. His true passion lay in philology, a field that allowed him to explore the depths of human language and thought. In 1869, at the age of 24, Nietzsche was offered a professorship in classical philology at the University of Basel. Despite his success, Nietzsche's time at Basel was marked by both triumph and turmoil. His health began to deteriorate, suffering from debilitating migraines and other ailments. His early works, such as The Birth of Tragedy, showcased his unconventional ideas. Nietzsche's physical health deteriorated rapidly during his time at Basel. His migraines intensified, becoming blinding headaches that left him incapacitated. Despite these setbacks, Nietzsche continued to write and lecture. In 1879, Nietzsche made the difficult decision to resign from his professorship at Basel. He sought relief in various spas and sanatoriums, hoping to find a cure for his ailments. It was during these years of isolation that Nietzsche's philosophy began to take its most radical form. Nietzsche's forced retreat from academia proved to be a period of intense intellectual ferment. Freed from the constraints of university life, he was able to fully explore his own ideas. He embraced his solitude, seeing it as a necessary condition for philosophical insight. Nietzsche's writing during this period was marked by a sense of urgency and intensity. Nietzsche's life in exile was a constant search for a climate that would ease his suffering. He spent time in Switzerland, Italy, and France, drawn to the milder climates of the South. His days were filled with a simple routine of writing, reading, and walking. Despite his isolation, Nietzsche maintained a network of correspondence. At the heart of Nietzsche's philosophy lies a concept both simple and profound: the will to power. It is the urge to grow, to overcome, to expand one's sphere of influence. For Nietzsche, the will to power is the fundamental principle of reality itself. To deny the will to power is to deny the very essence of life. The will to power goes beyond the basic instinct for survival. It is about thriving, about reaching one's full potential. It is the force that drives us to seek out challenges, to test our limits, to strive for greatness. The key is to recognize this force within ourselves and to harness it for our own purposes. The will to power is a neutral force. It can be channeled towards both creation and destruction. Nietzsche recognized the dangers inherent in the will to power. The challenge is to harness its energy for creative and life-affirming purposes. God is dead. These three words, uttered by a madman in Nietzsche's The Gay Science, have echoed through intellectual history. Nietzsche was not celebrating the death of God, he was mourning it. For centuries, the idea of God had served as the bedrock of morality. Nietzsche saw this not as a sign of progress, but as a symptom of a deep spiritual crisis. Nietzsche recognized that the death of God was a slow and agonizing process. He saw this crisis of faith manifesting itself in various ways: the rise of nihilism, the spread of skepticism, the growing sense of alienation. Without God, what was the basis for morality? What was the meaning of life? Nietzsche believed that this crisis of faith was an opportunity to forge a new path, to create new values based on human strength and resilience. For Nietzsche, the death of God was not an end, but a beginning. It was the beginning of a new era, an era in which humanity would be forced to confront its own freedom and responsibility. With the old idols shattered, we were free to create our own values, to become the authors of our own meaning. This was a daunting task, to be sure. It demanded a radical reassessment of everything we thought we knew about ourselves and the world. It required a new kind of courage, a willingness to embrace uncertainty and to live without the comfort of easy answers. But it was also an exhilarating prospect. It meant that we were no longer bound by the shackles of tradition, dogma, and outdated moral codes. We were free to create a world based on human potential, a world that celebrated life in all its messy, contradictory glory. Nietzsche's exploration of master-slave morality delves into the chasm that separates two distinct moral frameworks. These frameworks, he argued, are not merely different perspectives on a shared ethical landscape. They represent fundamentally opposed ways of valuing the world, of understanding good and evil, strength and weakness. The master morality is the morality of the strong, the noble, the creative. It is a morality that values power, not in the crude sense of domination, but as the ability to shape one's own destiny, to create, to overcome obstacles. The master sees the world as a testing ground, a place to prove one's worth through action and achievement. The slave morality, on the other hand, is the morality of the weak, the resentful, the oppressed. It is a morality born out of fear, envy, and a sense of powerlessness. The slave resents the strength and vitality of the master and seeks to undermine it by inverting the values that the master holds dear. Nietzsche argued that the slave morality achieved its dominance by a subtle but insidious process, the reversal of values. What the master saw as good, strength, courage, ambition, the slave reinterpreted as evil. These qualities were seen as dangerous, disruptive, threatening to the established order. In their place, the slave morality elevated qualities that were seen as antithetical to the master's values: humility, meekness, compassion. These qualities, while not inherently bad in themselves, became tools for the weak to undermine the strong, to make them feel guilty for their strength, to shame them into conformity. This reversal of values, Nietzsche argued, had a profound impact on Western civilization. It led to the rise of Christianity, with its emphasis on humility, self-sacrifice, and the renunciation of worldly power. It shaped our ideas about good and evil, right and wrong. It created a world in which the strong were made to feel guilty for their strength and the weak were encouraged to wallow in their weakness. Nietzsche's critique of slave morality is not an endorsement of cruelty or oppression. He is not advocating a return to a brutal Darwinian struggle for survival. Rather, he is diagnosing a sickness at the heart of Western civilization, a sickness that he believes has poisoned our culture, stifled our creativity, and made us fearful of our own potential. This sickness, he argues, is resentment. It is the resentment of the weak for the strong, the envy of the mediocre for the exceptional, the hatred of the slave for the master. It is a corrosive force that undermines achievement, stifles ambition, and breeds conformity. Nietzsche's solution is not to eliminate compassion or to glorify violence. It is to rediscover the values of the master morality: strength, courage, creativity, a love of life in all its fullness. It is to embrace our potential for greatness, to become the architects of our own destinies, and to create a world that celebrates excellence in all its forms. The Übermensch, often translated as the Overman or Superman, stands as one of Nietzsche's most captivating and controversial concepts. This is not a literal superhuman with extraordinary powers, but rather an aspirational ideal, a vision of what humanity might become if it could break free from the shackles of conventional morality and embrace its full potential. For Nietzsche, the Übermensch represents a radical break from the past. a transcendence of the limitations imposed by traditional morality, particularly what he saw as the stifling influence of Christian ethics. The Übermensch is not bound by the herd morality of the masses, the rules and norms that govern ordinary people. Instead, the Übermensch is a creator of values, a law unto himself, answerable only to his own will to power. This concept is often misunderstood as promoting a kind of egotistical individualism, a license for the strong to dominate the weak. However, Nietzsche's vision is far more nuanced than that. The Übermensch is not defined by cruelty or oppression, but by a profound love of life, a creative spirit, and an unyielding commitment to self-realization. The Übermensch embodies Nietzsche's will to power. It's not just physical strength, but the power to create and shape destiny. The Übermensch has boundless energy and a relentless drive to excel. Imagine an artist consumed by their vision, defying convention, or an entrepreneur risking everything on a daring idea. These individuals embody qualities of the Übermensch. The Übermensch is not bound by conventional morality. Nietzsche believed traditional moral codes suppress the strong. The Übermensch creates their own values, their own sense of right and wrong. This does not mean they are inherently immoral. They critically examine existing values, forging a new moral code. Creating one's own values can be liberating and terrifying. It offers a more authentic and fulfilling existence. Nietzsche's impact on modern thought is akin to a seismic shift, sending tremors through virtually every field of intellectual inquiry. His ideas have seeped into our culture, shaping our understanding of morality, religion, art, psychology, and the human condition. He is considered one of the key thinkers who ushered in postmodernism. His critique of traditional morality paved the way for existentialism. Thinkers like Sartre, Camus, and de Beauvoir grappled with his ideas. Nietzsche's influence extends far beyond academic philosophy. His ideas resonate in literature, music, and visual art. Modernist writers like Kafka, Eliot, and Joyce explored his themes of individual struggle and human nature. Composers like Mahler and Strauss grappled with his ideas of nihilism and ecstasy. They searched for meaning in a godless world. In visual arts, Expressionism reflects his emphasis on emotion. Freud acknowledged Nietzsche's impact on psychology, especially on instinct and human nature. Nietzsche's legacy is not without its critics. Some have accused him of nihilism, of advocating a dangerous form of individualism, of paving the way for totalitarian ideologies. It is true that his ideas have been appropriated by some for nefarious purposes. However, to reduce his philosophy to these interpretations is to fundamentally misunderstand the depth and complexity of his thought. Nietzsche was not advocating for a world without values, but rather a revaluation of values, a move away from what he saw as the life-denying morality of his time. He was not celebrating the death of God, but mourning the loss of a shared belief system, while simultaneously urging humanity to confront the challenges and opportunities of a world without absolute truths. The enduring question that Nietzsche poses is this: in a world without God, in a world where traditional values have crumbled, how do we find meaning and purpose? His answer is not to despair but to embrace our freedom, to create our own values, to become the artists of our own lives. Nietzsche's legacy is not one of tidy answers or comforting platitudes. He offers no easy solutions to the human condition, no pre-packaged moral codes to follow blindly. Instead, he confronts us with a challenge, a call to awaken and confront the raw truth of our existence. He demands we grapple with a world without God, where traditional values have crumbled, and we are the authors of our own meaning. This challenge requires fearlessness, a willingness to question everything. Nietzsche saw the death of God as an opportunity to create new values and forge a new path for humanity. Nietzsche's legacy is like a fire, both destructive and creative. He burns away the old, the outdated ideologies that stifle our potential. From the ashes, he offers rebirth, forging a new way of being. His influence reverberates through intellectual history, challenging and inspiring. A legacy forged in intellectual honesty, illuminating a more authentic human experience.